What's up, everybody? Welcome to Season 2 of the Safety Meeting Rising World Survival Series, and also to the 0.7 Alpha Water Update. This is the big awaited update that not only did we get water, but we have a bunch of other new stuff as well. I'm not going to go through everything that was introduced into the newest update. If you do want to check that out, I have a video that covers everything that just was released. So go ahead and check that out if you want to find out everything. But when the big update was announced, I decided that this would be a perfect opportunity to start a new Let's Play / tutorial series now that I know a little bit more about the game and what I'm doing. Just a little bit more, but enough to think we're going to do alright this season. So now with all of that said, let's get down to some survival. First of all, let's check out our inventory. Now, I think the default key for inventory is the I button, but I'm not exactly sure. My keys have been changed massively around over the last couple of months, so I'm not positive what all the default keys are. I think it's I to open the inventory. So whatever key you need to open your inventory, let's check it out. So you can see right now we have pretty much next to nothing other than a pickaxe and an axe. We have some armor slots that we're not going to be using. We also have some equipment, which we'll go into a little bit later, and just our typical inventory slots. And you can also see up here that we have a crafting section. Now, this is the first thing that we want to do is try to get this little shelter going, this small shelter. And in order to do that, we have to have 32 sticks. And it's a little bit different than most games. You don't just run around gathering sticks. What we have to do is actually get logs by chopping trees and turn those logs into lumber, and in turn, turn that lumber into sticks. So it's not sticks in the form of what you would think is falling off of a tree. It's more like a finished stick that you can use to build things with. Now, one thing that you can do if you just want to look back real quick to see what needs to be done is if you press the J key, it'll actually open up your journal. Now, I don't use the journal because it doesn't really tell you a whole heck of a lot, to be honest with you. It's just the first basic steps. So if you do want to go through the journal, by all means, feel free. But we're going to cover it all within the series anyway. The only thing that I really use the journal for is blueprints, and we're not going to be using blueprints at all in this series because it is survival, and everything is going to be built from scratch. So for right now, let's just get out of the journal. I just wanted to let you know that it's there in case you did need it. But I think what we should do for right now, I'm eyeballing this spot right here. It looks like a nice little flat that's kind of tucked up into the mountain here, and I also see some ores and stuff right above it as well. So I think this might be our first gathering spot for a base. So let's get some of this wood chopped. And in order to do that, you can use your middle mouse wheel, and if you start to scroll, you can see up in the top right that we actually have a hotbar. And we're going to scroll over to number 2, and that gets out our axe. And before we start chopping, the one thing that I do want to mention real quick, the biggest change with the water update is the fact that we have to drink now. So if you see in the bottom right corner, we have our fork and knife and a water bottle. Now when we first logged on, all of that was bright green. It's starting to get a little bit of a dull yellow to it. If that starts to go red, we're in trouble. So we have to make sure that we pay attention to our food and our thirst level. For right now, we're okay. So let's just get to chopping real fast. And one of the coolest things that I think that they implemented, and it's just a simple thing, is this little animation of leaves falling. I don't know, I love that. Just these tiny little things make it so much more realistic. So we just chopped down our first tree, and what we have to do in order to utilize this tree is chop it down into logs. Alright, so now you can see that this little hand popped up right over the top of the log. That means we can interact with this item now. And in order to interact, I believe the default is F. I'm not sure. Mine has been changed to the E key, so I'm going to hit my interact, and that allows us to actually pick up the log. And one other thing that it does when you chop a tree down, and sometimes they're a little bit hard to see, it depends on the tree and what color the leaves are and all that kind of good stuff, it'll actually drop saplings as well. So if we go into our inventory, you can see that we have 4 logs and 3 saplings. Those saplings are going to come in handy so we can kind of replant a forest, because we're going to go through a ton of wood once we get into building. So let's go ahead and chop a few more of these trees down just so we have a nice little supply. And then we'll go over that little flat spot and get a shelter built. Now I can't remember for sure how much lumber it takes in order to build the shelter, so let's just go ahead and chop ourselves a few trees here, and then we'll run on over to build our shelter. Oh, a tree got stuck. Never seen that happen before. Uh-oh. Is it gonna go? Is it gonna go? The dangers of felling a tree. Oh, geez. Man, this is a hard hat area, apparently. I don't know how to craft one of those. Now, one of the things that I do is I tend to leave tree stumps, and the reason that I do that is because I've actually lost homes and bases because I didn't have a compass, or I just wandered around, not really paying attention to where I was. And the only reason I found my way back home was because I started to see the bare tree stumps, and I knew that that meant there was an area that I had been in, so I was able to find my way back home. So when I start out, I always leave the tree stumps. That's just a little habit of mine. So this is a little flat spot. I was thinking, oh, our little flat spot is actually water. That's a good thing, because now we have a water supply that we don't have to keep walking over to the big lake. So this is actually going to be a perfect spot to make our first little base. So I think what we need to do, let's come over here. Yeah, we'll start making this our little pocket right here. All right, let's get our shelter built. And in order to do that, we want to go into our inventory and go to crafting. And we need to take our logs, and you can see that we're under lumber right now. One log is going to make 12 pieces of lumber. And if we go under sticks, one lumber is going to make 4 sticks. So let's go ahead and craft a bunch. I'm not even going to pay attention to how many I'm making here, because we're going to eventually use everything up anyway. I know we need 32 sticks for the shelter. And I will go into detail about the crafting benches and stuff like that, and all of the things about the lights and the resources and things. I don't want to bore you by going through everything right off the bat, because everything's going to kind of get unfolded as we play the game. So for right now, we just want to go into general. And we have small shelter, and it lights up green if we have enough resources in order to build the object that we want. So that's telling us that we have the go-ahead to create our shelter. So let's go ahead and craft it. One thing that I do like is that we kind of have the combination of a crafting interface and the inventory both in the same frame, so you don't have to back out of one to get into the other. So we just click over into inventory, and here's our shelter and some of the lumber and stuff that we made. So let's get the shelter up into our number 5 slot. So I press escape to get out of there, hit the number 5, and there's our shelter. And it's going to look a little funky for right now because the grass is really long. The shelter we can move. For right now, we just really want to set it down just to get our spawn spot. And if it turns red, that means that you can't set it there. So we're just going to go ahead and place it right here since we're not actually sleeping in it. We're not too concerned about the fact that it's really crooked and almost hidden. In order to place it, just hold the right mouse button, and it will place the shelter just there. Now our shelter is placed and we are good to go. So we've crafted our first item and placed it. Now you can see in the bottom right corner, my water level is in the red. So we need a drink, which is perfect for having a little water supply right here. In order to drink, we just get close to the water and hit our interaction key. And now it tells us we drank some water. I'm just going to go ahead and tap it a bunch of times just so we know for sure that we're nice and full of water. So now I got a full belly of water. Now the first thing that I want to do, just so I make myself a little bit more comfortable, is go ahead and set our first spawn position. And in order to do that, all we have to do is, you can see as soon as I aim right at our shelter, the little Z's come up. We're going to start sawing logs here. Not literally, of course. We just press E, and now we are sleeping. Now, since we're sleeping in the middle of the day, we actually have to hit escape to get ourselves back up and running again. If it was nighttime, it's automated. You just sleep, and then about 5 seconds later, you wake up. All that did was just officially set our spawn point. So now that we got that taken care of, we want to check out our crafting interface by going into inventory and clicking on crafting. And under the drop-down menu, let's go to crafting stations, and the first thing that we're going to make is a workbench. And we already have enough lumber for that, which is cool, so we don't have to go anywhere. It takes 16 lumber to make our first workbench, so let's go ahead and make that. Whoa, I think our sunset just changed quite a bit. Now, until we have a little bit of an area clear, I'm going to put our crafting table down here just because it is a little bit flatter. And like I said, things are going to look a little bit funky right now because of this tall grass. Everything will change soon, trust me. So for right now, I'm just going to drop it right here. I don't even care where it's at. If you don't like the placement, you can use this on the shelter as well. If you don't like the placement, just walk up to it and hold down your interact key, and you can see that it says removing workbench. I'm not going to remove it because this is where I want it, but that's how you move certain objects. Some things you can't move, like the smelting stations and stuff like that, and you kind of figure that out as you go. If you can't move it, then just break it with your pick. So now we have our first workstation, and if we go into it, you're probably going to think this looks the same as when we go into our regular inventory, but now if you go into the drop down, we have a lot more options. We have resources, lights, tools, utilities, weapons, miscellaneous, more crafting stations, ladders, and signs. We have all sorts of stuff. We have our grills and our smokers. That's how you cook food and things like that. So there's a ton of stuff that we're going to be able to play around with in the game. But for right now, we got the two most important things that we needed for our day one survival anyway. We got our shelter and our spawn point all taken care of, and we got our first crafting bench. We got one more thing that I want to do before we wrap it up for our first episode. We want to start doing a little bit of mining. And the reason we want to do that, we can't really progress any further until we start smelting ores. And in order to do that, we go into our crafting stations and we need a smelting furnace. Now for a smelting furnace, we need 128 pieces of stone. It sounds like a lot, but it actually isn't. It shouldn't take us too long to get 128 pieces. So once we have the smelting furnace, that pretty much opens us up to the rest of the game, allowing us to make tools and all the other resources that we need. Like, just to give you an idea, under tools, we have, let's see, gives you the pickaxe and the axe, but we have a sickle. I don't know what we need the rolling pin for. I guess you can probably use that to hit goats on the head, maybe. The sickle we use in order to get seeds and things like that from our plants. The scythe, that's our vintage lawnmower. We have a rake, a sledgehammer, and a hoe. So there's a ton of stuff for us to play around with in here, but we can't do any of it until we get our smelting furnace. So I think what we're going to do, let's go check out over here. I keep seeing all this ore just stuck to the walls over here. So we know what's there. Let's see, that spot's not terribly accessible, but we have a big chunk up there. Can we make it up there? Let's go find out. Yes, we can make it up. And I guess we might as well, since we're here, we'll take advantage of this apple tree. There's a bunch of fruit trees in the game, and it's a great source of food. So if we aim at the tree, you can see our little hand pops up for our interaction. Now we can take apples. We're actually getting a little bit hungry anyway, so that's perfect timing. So with an apple in our hand, if we right-click, there, now we ate an apple. So now that our stats are all good, let's get some of this ore. And at the same time, we'll end up getting stone. So we're going to get a little bit of everything that we need. Now for mining, it's just holding down left click. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a couple of minutes just kind of digging into the side of this mountain here. And actually, let's find out real quick what this is that we're mining real fast. Now it doesn't identify it just by pointing at it. You have to mine a little bit of it and then go into your inventory. So we're mining copper right now. And you can see that kind of as a byproduct, we're getting dirt and stone. So we're getting everything that we need just by mining the ore that we were already going to go for anyway. So I'm going to do this for a couple of minutes, and I will be right back. And one thing I should probably mention while I'm thinking about it, while you're mining, you don't actually have to pick up anything to add it to your inventory. It just automatically gets dropped in there for you. So if you're wondering why I don't have to actually pick anything up, that's why. This should be plenty. I think we need 3 stacks in order to make the smelting furnace. So along the way, we got 17 copper ore. That's about all we found at the moment, but that's not too bad, seeing that mostly we're just going after the stone anyway. So let's go get this smelter made. And I think what we'll end up doing, we'll probably wrap it up once we get the smelter all taken care of. We'll get it built, fire it up, and get some stuff in there and cooking, and then figure out what we're going to do for the next episode. So for right now, let's get this thing going. Alright, so we go into our crafting stations. We want the smelting furnace. Craft it. Let's see, we'll drag it up into the number 4 here. Now this thing is pretty big. And you can't move this. This is one of the items that you can't move once you place it. But since this is pretty much just a temporary spot anyway, here, let's tuck it. Let's go back here. We'll kind of tuck it back into this wall right here. Maybe we'll build a little overhang for it eventually. So to place the furnace, it's the same thing. You just hold right click until the green line goes all the way, and then that means it's placed. There, now we got our first smelting furnace. Beautiful. Now I do realize there's not a whole heck of a lot of action going on in this first episode. We're just trying to get our basics taken care of at the moment, and then we're going to do some exploring. We're actually going to play around with some of the animals. Not only am I going to tell you which ones are the ones that want to kill you, I'm going to show you. We want to make this exciting, right? We'll see how fast our character can run. Right now, it looks like our whole area is pretty flush with everything. I see pigs and cows and plants and all sorts of stuff everywhere. So once we get this business of trying to stay alive all taken care of, we'll go have some fun. Now right now, because this game is early access, and this is going to be the story with a lot of things. There's a lot of incomplete things and a lot of things that just plain aren't going to make any sense. Like right now, the smelting furnace, you don't need any fuel for it. Coal is available in the game, but you don't have to use anything in order to start this thing up. So currently all you have to do is just aim towards it, hit your interact button, and the turn on and off button comes on. So left mouse click and boom, now our smelter is on. Eventually that's going to change in the game, but like I said, because this is early access, there's going to be a bunch of stuff that it's kind of shortcutted right now, just because not everything is implemented into the game. So here's what we want to do in order to get our ores melted down into ingots. Let's open up our inventory, and let's take the copper. We'll move it over into the number 4 slot, so it puts it in our hand. And all you have to do is just aim at these little ingot molds here, and you can see that it places the ore automatically. Just right-click it, and that'll actually place it into the little ingot. And you just go through and you do that with all of them. I don't think we have a full 24, so I don't think we're going to fill this whole thing up. But that'll give us an idea, though. Now, I'm not going to get super high-tech into the game as far as being a tutorial and everything. I don't know how long each ore smelts for and stuff like that. I've never gotten that high-tech into any game I've ever played. If I come back and it's done, cool. If it's not, then I'm going to go explore a little bit more until I notice that the ore is done melting. That's about the extent of my high-techness. Pretty sure that's not a word. High-techness? I have no idea. What's up, pig? Let's go check you out. Oh, don't you turn your back on me. Pig's showing me his butt. I didn't want to talk to you anyway. So I guess now that we're getting the basics taken care of, we can start doing the little things like grabbing some fruits and vegetables and stuff. I know that's not really a little thing, but you know what I mean. We got a pumpkin. Pumpkins, I don't even know what you can do with those yet. I don't even think that those are for food. I know you can carve them up and make a jack-o'-lantern out of them. Here, let's do this while we're waiting. If we chop down apple trees... let's take the apples first. If we chop down the apple trees, we'll get a apple tree sapling, and we can actually plant that right next to the house. And that way we don't have to travel so far if we start to get a little bit hard up for food or something like that. Okay, looks like we got 2 saplings that time. I'm going to leave the stump. I'm just going to go around and start collecting some wood since we're going to need it anyway. That's something that you can never have too much of. So eventually what we'll do is get a saw table or a saw bench. Let's see, did you leave any saplings? Because sometimes they'll leave a sapling and you just can't see them. I'm not going to spend that much time worrying about it. I think the saw bench is where you get your first chests and things like that from, so we can finally do some storage. Yeah, we're definitely going to want to replant these saplings because we don't have too much of a forest right here nearby. Am I getting lost? I thought this was our little spot right here. Okay, yeah, there's the shelter. Oh, that's right, the smelter. I tucked it way back here. Well, we got something here. Let's find out what it is. Oh, let's see. Ah, potatoes. Cool. We'll just hold on to that for when we get hungry. Let's go see what this stuff is doing real fast. You are not done yet. Hurry up. Well, I guess while we're waiting for that, let's go check out the water. We haven't really done any exploring yet, so let's go check that out real fast. I think eventually we're going to have some beachfront property. I guess this would just be lakefront property since it's too rocky to have a beach. Ah, there's our forest right over there. That might be where we have to start going to harvest our wood. Maybe next episode we'll go explore that area. This is such a cool spot. Ooh, I see a bunch of ore here. Let's see what we've got here. Looks like it might just be copper again, but... Nope, that's iron. Sweet. That's something that we need early on. For exactly what? I can't remember. Oh, for all of our tools. Duh. I know the hardest thing, if I remember right, is trying to get... I think it's the anvil. I think the anvil takes a lot of ingots. So we're going to have to check that out when we get back. Alright, well, we got a little bit of iron now, so let's go back and see if our copper has been smelted yet. Alright, it's done. So now that our ore has been smelted into ingots, all we have to do is, with the interact button, just aim at everything and pick it all up out of the tray. And what this is going to do for us now is give us some finished ingots. And we can use that in our crafting tables. So now we have 17 copper ingots. And if we take our... Oh, come on. We got 30 pieces of iron ore now. Let's go ahead and plop these in here just so they're in there and cooking. Ready for us the next time. We got the most important things taken care of. We got our first smelter going. We have a couple of ingots now. We got our shelter, and it looks like it's going to be nighttime here shortly. Now, one thing that we can do in a pinch for lighting is if you go into your inventory, we go to crafting, and under lights, all you need is just one stick, and you can make yourself a torch. You don't need coal or anything like that. And if you want to actually hang it up on the wall, just with another stick, you can make a torch mount. So let's go ahead and do a couple of those real fast. That way we'll have some lights around here and I can just show you real fast how to use that. So let's drag these up here. So if we get out the torch mount, let's put it up by our shelter. That way we can see our tent a little bit better. You can kind of see a little bit of a ghost image. Sometimes they're hard to see, especially if you're in this long grass. If you hold the right mouse button, it will place it on the wall. We switch over to our torch, and same thing, right mouse click, and now we have light. Now we won't get lost, or as lost, coming to and from the water. So that's it for our first night. We survived, we're still here, we're alive and kicking. So let's check out our shelter real fast, make sure that's functional the way that it's supposed to be. So we go up to it and we hit our interact. And it should put us right to morning after a couple of seconds. Let's find out. I'm not going to do any... Alright, beautiful. Now it's morning. We got plenty of energy. We need a little bit of water. Good to go with a fresh day ahead of us. Alright, so we're going to wrap it up right there. I hope it helps you out. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did enjoy, please leave me a like. I appreciate that as well. And I think what we're going to do when we come back for our next episode is see if we can't start getting some tools built. One thing that I'd really like to do is at least knock down some of this tall grass and get ourselves a little bit of a home going here. And we will see you next time for another episode of Rising World Survival.